Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Michael Hall and Michael Reed. But we are also joined by very special guest and fellow podcaster, Todd from the Tae Todds Podcast. Thank you for joining us, sir. It's about time we got you on.
Sir.
I know. Thank you for having me. Like I said, I feel like I've been on here with y'all, even though I haven't. So it's good to finally be on here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And we have so much to get into, Todd. And the first thing we're going to get into is the biggest news from the weekend. You know, Twitter blew up with the Matt Stafford being traded to LA in exchange for Jared Goff. So let me get your opinion on that trade. Do you and a lot of pundits were coming out and saying that LA got shafted in that deal. What do you think about that?
You know, it's kind of weird. Look, giving up the 2-1s looks like a lot, but when you consider that I do believe the Rams are Super Bowl contenders with Stafford, it's, you know, is there too much? I think it worked for both sides. I think the Lions wanted Jared Goff and wanted 2 picks as well. So, you know, I'm okay because I was never confident it would happen. It's good to know that they're at least trying to upgrade at quarterback. That's what I took from it. So, but I was very surprised to see 2 first-round picks. But yeah. Go next one, plan B.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I was blown away because I was arguing with people on Twitter about Matt Stafford, you know, and I was saying, look,
yeah.
I know that you guys all want Stafford, but if they're asking for more than a first and a third, I'm out of it. I'm immediately out of it. And it was like 15 minutes later that the news got announced that he was actually traded to LA. So, Hall, what was your opinion on the trade? Who won that trade in your opinion?
Man, first of all, my first initial was I was shocked because the LA Rams came out of nowhere. I mean, we heard all the like initial report of like McVay saw him in Cancun or Cabo, whatever it was, some fancy vacation place.
Right.
But
Todd on his latest podcast I was just listening to, he legitimately believes that Sean McVay had heard Stafford was in Cabo and that he was like, okay, I'm going right there to go see him.
No,
he might have.
Not a coincidence. Not a coincidence.
Really, yeah. Honestly, like I 100% believe that. But I mean, I was shocked, but at the same time, I was like, you know what? It makes 100% sense. The Rams like have constantly been in win now mode with Jared Goff or without him. Stafford's an upgrade for them, and for the Lions, I mean, Jared Goff can either be that stopgap guy or he can turn out to be, it's the same Jared Goff from a couple years ago. We can win with him and they can go forward with him as a franchise guy. But as far as who won it, I would have to definitely say the Rams won that because they're in win now mode. Mm-hmm. They're definitely a Super Bowl contender, and I fully expect them to be, at worst, NFC Championship next year.
Yeah, and I want to know if Jared Goff really did say that he would pipe Sean McVay's fiance.
It's probably true. Yeah.
What is that's what? Let me bounce it off you, Reed. Do you agree with Hall that the Rams ultimately won that trade?
I mean, yeah, I think that anytime you have a realistic shot at winning a Super Bowl, you win the trade, no matter what. No matter what happens down the road. And honest, Matthew Stafford just makes them so much better. Like Matt Stafford has been so criminally underrated his whole career because he's been stuck in Detroit. People really don't realize just how good he is. I think obviously I was bummed because he was somebody who I really wanted here, but him in LA, him with Sean McVay, with those receivers, with that defense, he's never had a defense like that. He's never had a head coach like that. They're gonna he's never had a running game. Right. They're gonna be scary. They're gonna be very good. And Matthew Stafford will finally get the respect that he deserves. But I was shocked to see 2-1s. Granted, they're 2-1s down the road, but fucking LA isn't gonna have a first round pick until 2024. They haven't had a first round pick until 2017 with Jared Goff. Like it's just they don't care. They're in win now mode. They don't care. They do not care. Yeah, exactly. Hey, I'm all for it. Yeah,
honestly.
Unless it blows up in their face, I mean, I'm all for it. If they don't win a Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford in the next couple of years, then they lost the trade.
Yeah. Now, so the next question I'm going to ask you guys, I'm going to answer it first. That being, are you upset that the Washington football team did not up their ante in what they would give up to the Detroit Lions for Matthew Stafford? And personally, in my opinion, I love the fact that they stood tight and that they didn't give up more than a first and a third, because that was my feeling from the start. Look, is Matt Stafford a fantastic quarterback? Absolutely. but I don't think that you can send more assets away for a 32-year-old quarterback. And I understand that he has played through injuries, but he does have injuries in his past, especially with that back, that does concern me. So, no, multiple first-round picks is out of the realm of possibility, in my opinion. So I liked that they stood pat, and it wasn't like one of those situations where Dan Snyder came in off his yacht, like Jay Gruden said, and came and said, make this happen. It was they stood tight, and they made sure that they were only sending what they wanted. What about you, Tae? What about you, Todd? Did you agree with that?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, I would have maybe gave up another third next year or a fourth, but definitely not 2 ones. And I mean, we kind of PTSD from trading for other 33-year-old Alex Smith. Y'all know that Alex Smith, Donovan McNabb, and Mark Brunell were all 33 when we traded for them, and Matthew Stafford was about to be 33. Yeah. So, and then the fact you would need a new contract, along with the fact that he's not injury prone, but he does have back problems, which kind of worries you long term. And our Super Bowl window is not what the Rams is right now. So I'm fine with it. I'm fine.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. That's how I feel about it. What about you guys? Hall, did you have a problem with them not upping their ante?
No, because, I mean, look, how many times in the past regimes, in the past years, have they upped the ante? They've paid way too much or given up way too much for. Obviously, Matt Stafford's not an over-the-hill player. He still has a lot of years left. I say like 3 or 4, maybe 5.
Right.
But he's not an over-the-hill player. But I would love to see them not overpay, and that's exactly what they did. First and the third, obviously that was like prolific in my opinion. That was like exactly what they wanted. Right. But if they wanted extra, you could have like maybe sprinkled Landon Collins in there if they would have took him.
That wasn't gonna happen.
But no, seriously though. But I mean, first and the third, I mean, that's the most you can give up for a guy that's going to be 33, like Todd said, with back problems, simple kind of lingering injury history, but not really like in the last couple of years. But at the end of the day, it's on the plan B.
Right. To be completely honest, I don't even think it really would have mattered if we would have upped the ante, unless we upped it like a whole bunch. Detroit was they were so grateful for all Stafford had done for him, even though it's only 3 playoff appearances or so. But they were going to send him where he wanted to go. He wanted to be in LA. He wanted to be with Sean McVay. Apparently, he wanted to do that the whole time. And then the fact that they could get a starting quarterback for this year out of it, I think they were just like, you know what? All right, we owe it to you. Be gone. Have fun. Have your fun out there in LA with Sean McVay. Don't pipe his wife. And then
what's funny about that? I was literally thinking, I was like, what if they all sat down in like Cabo, or like, what if Matt Stafford sitting there like, damn, Jared Goff is right. I'm trying to pipe his wife. Let me go out to LA real quick. Like,
that's how he earned Sean McVay's respect. He looked him in the eye and he was like, I'm going to pipe your wife. I'm not going to send it in a group.
I want you on
I'm not
my
going to
team.
send it in a group chat. I'm going to say it to your face, look you in the eye while I say it.
Sean McVay was like, you're my man. You're my man.
That's a winner right there. Yeah. But the fact that the Rams were able to unload that Jared Goff contract makes a lot of sense for them, and also makes a lot of sense for Detroit, because now you're looking at Detroit, and they kind of had that ability of having that cap space for them. So they can have that bridge quarterback, and they're not married to Jared Goff. I'm sure it's not going to extend that far. So for both sides, I thought it made a whole lot of sense for them to do it. And then it was well known that Detroit wanted to get draft assets in order to trade up. So maybe that's why they weren't concerned about it being a this year pick. They just wanted multiple picks, because it is somewhat of an eye-popping draft pick of having next year's first and the year after, so they could mortgage that in some sort of a trade in order to move up. So it wouldn't make a lot of sense to me, but I don't think it's going to happen this year. If they're going to trade up for a quarterback, it's going to be in next year's draft, and I think that's what that trade proved. Now, let's move on to our fan questions, and we just talked about the quarterback position, so let's start with the Colonel. No other person we could start with. He said the NFL Network has projected Mac Jones being the 19th pick to the Washington football team. Are they high? And I'll start with you, Todd.
Are they high? Okay, so are they high for predicting it? I'm going to say that they're not high for predicting it, okay? Because I do think Mac Jones, I feel like the quarterback market his price is going to be higher than maybe what his value is.
Right.
Would Washington be crazy for doing it? I tell you what, I'm not a Mac Jones like supporter. Like I was working it out. He's plan H for me. I think it was A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. If it came to the point where they were taking Jones at 19, I wouldn't be excited or outraged. I would wait to see what happens. That's where I'm at.
Right.
Maybe that's too balanced of an approach. Maybe I need to have a hotter approach one way or the other, but I'd just wait to see what happens.
Yeah, look, I'm right there with you. I do think they're high for doing that. I think that's just clickbait stuff that they're just trying to, move the needle a little bit, but picking Mac
Right.
Jones at 19. Look, if the Washington football team does select Mac Jones, the best case scenario that I would be very happy about that draft selection would be in the 3rd round. Anything before that, I think, is a little bit too much because it's the chicken or the egg argument. Is it Mac Jones being so good, or is it the fact that he has the Heisman Trophy winner in Smith as his wide receiver in a phenomenal running game, a great system around him, and a phenomenal defense?
He has another first-round receiver he's thrown to, too.
Jalen
Jalen
Waddle.
Waddle,
And
who was
then-
hurt a lot of the year. But
And the defense is able to get him more and more opportunities every single game. That might not be the recipe for him in the NFL. So for me, I do think they're high a little bit for selecting at 19. I don't think he should sniff the 1st round personally. What about you, Hall?
I mean, technically, I would probably say he's like a late 1st rounder. Maybe someone like trades back or like trades up into the 1st round to get him.
Like a Lamar
Similar-
Jackson type, right?
Exactly, similar to Lamar Jackson. Early 2nd round pick. But obviously, the demand for quarterbacks is going to push him up the board. He'll probably be a top 15 to top 18, 19 pick.
When is the
could
NFL
swap
going to learn?
Never. What do you
Never.
mean?
they're not.
It
Yeah.
was like,
Look, some people's philosophy is draft a quarterback every single year, and if he pans out, you got your guy.
Mm.
But
Right. Yeah.
I mean, look, is Washington at 19? I don't see that happening. I don't see him actually being there. I don't see them trading up to get him. And I mean, if you're gonna draft a guy like Mac Jones, who's like not a day 1 starter, you might as well wait till the 2nd round, day 2, to get a guy like Kellen Mond, a guy that's actually mobile, a guy that fits the current NFL. It's like a little bit mobile in the pocket, can extend plays,
Really like
he can
his
run the
tape.
ball. Exactly, he can
Yeah.
run the ball when push comes to shove. You can actually design run plays around him, kind of, sort of. So my philosophy on Mac Jones is I do think he will be eventually a pretty good quarterback because he's accurate as hell, and accuracy goes a long way in the NFL.
It does.
But
yeah.
the new age NFL was on the new age coming, the dawning of the NFL. You need a mobile quarterback that can move around in the pocket,
Mhm.
extend plays, make off-script plays. And I think that if you're going to go quarterback route this draft, get Kellen Mond in maybe the 2nd round.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm surprised that you didn't want to go hang out with Bucky Brooks after he put out that one. What about you, Reed? How are you feeling
Bucky's my
about?
guy. I love Bucky, man. He's smart.
Me too. But
I,
when
I love Bucky too.
when I saw him select him there at 19, I was like, dude, Bucky, what are you doing, man? I love you.
Yeah.
What is that? What do you feel about that, Reed?
I mean, is it a little bit high? Yeah. I mean, would I take him there? No. Do I want Mac Jones? No. Like you guys said, he's probably plan H for me. I don't necessarily want him, especially that early. But like everybody said, the demand for quarterbacks are so high that it pushes guys up the board. You see it every year. You saw it with Blaine Gabbert. You see it with Jake Locker. You see it with Christian Ponder. You see it with all these guys. EJ Manuel. It
Yeah.
always happens.
Mhm.
But
What a name.
I will say Mac Jones did impress me when he was at the Senior Bowl. The little bit that he played, apparently at practice, he was a rah-rah guy. He was getting everybody going, getting everybody in position. He was dropping some dimes. So the
Yeah.
coaches apparently really took notice of that. So did the scouts. I do think that helps him a little bit. But like you said, Kyle, with the way Tua played, I know Tua's stats look fantastic, but if you actually sat back and watched Tua's games, last year, he threw a lot of balls that should have been intercepted. I mean,
Yeah.
he wasn't used to not having the talent that he had at Alabama. And that's
Right.
going to be the same thing with Mac Jones. It'll take an adjustment period. So like Hall said, if he can get somewhere where he sits for a while, that'll be great. But I don't think that he's going to come in here and be our savior. And at pick number 19, I don't think we go that route.
And then Colonel's next question, he wants to hear Hall's opinion the most because Hall's boy is Antonio Gibson. His next question is, are we comfortable with the running back room? Because in Colonel's opinion, they're one injury away from Antonio Gibson from being a mediocre group. So are you comfortable with that running back room right now, Hall?
Comfortable, I would say, man, because if we can have J.D. McKissick back and have his role that he had last year as that step-in guy that can kind of produce us, 5 to 6 yards of run, catch out the backfield, I'll take that. Obviously, if we can replace Peyton Barber with a more versatile kind of, you can be the hammerhead guy, also maybe produce a little bit out the backfield, give us some type of production catching-wise, I would love that. I got put up on my phone right now. Javonte Williams, North Carolina.
Yeah.
He's projected to be a 3rd or 4th round pick. I mean, I would love to spend a 4th or later on a running back
Right.
per se, but I have high hopes for Antonio Gibson. If he can stay healthy, obviously he had the toe injury going into the later part of the season. I think that and then coming back after 2 weeks of that, I think he's proven he can overcome injuries, whether it be small. I know it's only one, but I have a lot of faith in Antonio Gibson, and I think that year 2 in this offense is he's gonna explode and be that guy. So
His
we
vision,
can,
yeah.
no, can we improve it? Yes, but do I have like any need for it per se? No, I would say that.
Yeah, his vision progressed throughout the year, and that was his one knock throughout the year was that his running back vision just did not progress yet because he was so heavily utilized as a wide receiver through college.
Yeah.
What about you, Todd? Are you comfortable with that running back room? And if you could make it better, what would you be doing?
Yeah, I'm comfortable enough to not address it probably before the third round, but like at the third round or in free agency, I feel like Peyton Barber he's not a good enough third string back, which third string running backs, they play a lot more than third string other positions, right?
Yeah. It's not your average third stringer.
No, exactly. Like, he's going to get touches. And then you made a good point in the question. If Antonio Gibson gets hurt, then you're down to really a bad room. So I would love to address it. You mentioned Williams, and I feel like if you could get a guy who has a balance of power, who's almost like another Antonio Gibson, really. If you could have two Antonio Gibsons, I think that's ideal. And you got Gibson in the third.
Gainwell out of Memphis.
Yeah, exactly.
Kenneth Gainwell's a little bit smaller. Gainwell's, but he would complement him well, though.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Gibson can do a lot of that short, 1 to 2 yard stuff as well.
Yeah,
I think
he should be able to.
Right. So I would look for another Antonio Gibson, speed and size and power.
Right.
And then I think I'd feel better. Peyton Barber, I don't like when he touches the ball.
I'm the same mindset where it's like, is it an immediate need? No, but third round, I want to see us take a running back at some point in the draft. And I think you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly who I've kind of been eyeing, looking at if he's available in those rounds. I would imagine that he will be with the way that the running backs are kind of selected nowadays. But is it? Yeah, Colonel's right. If Gibson goes down again, then it's going to be kind of tough. So you definitely got to bring somebody in there, preferably somebody young, somebody that'll be on a very low deal. So. Yeah, I think that you got to address it in the draft in the middle rounds.
Yeah, look, I said it last week, I believe I did, where I said I want the third running back on the roster to be somebody who has upside, who has the ability to be a number one running back. And I talked about Trey Sermon out of Ohio State. I know, Reed, you talked about that his draft stock is really rising, so he could be selected in the second or third, so we kind of be out of that realm of possibility. But a guy like Khalil Herbert out of Virginia Tech, who was in the running to be a Heisman winner, had a great season before the end of the season, really threw him for a ride. But somebody like that is what I would really love to have at a third running back position, because if they are given the chance, they might actually do something lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, so that's a good point. I like that point. I'd rather have an upside guy at 3 than a ceiling reached guy.
Yeah. One guy I had my eyes on, and I know he was on a practice squad. He got brought up at late term because he got signed late term. But Devontae Freeman, he was coming off the injury. I think he's going to hit the free market agency again. I mean, look, he's definitely a guy who's been a number one.
He could help out with Gibson.
He could be a great number 2, but having him as number 3 on reserves, that could be a name right there too.
Yeah. That's a great question. Thank you, Colonel. Phenomenal. Let's move on to Freddie Ham's question. Hammer.
Real fast, Colonel, you were right. Kyle should stop hating on Derek Carr because he does look like him. He does.
Stop that noise, dude.
It's so funny. You used to call Derek Carr beta. You'd be like, Derek Carr's so ugly. I just don't like him. And then Colonel was like, you should really stop talking bad about him. Kyle kind of looked like him. That was one of the funniest things I'd ever heard.
I know. But let's move on to Freddie the Hammer's question. His question is Trey Lance versus Justin Fields, and I'll start with you, Todd.
Oh man, that's tough. That is tough. I feel like I would have to. That's tough. I just did a whole thread on Justin Fields. I like the last 2 hours I've been working on that thread. I spent more time than I planned to spend on it, but he's more fresh in my mind right now. I'm probably gonna say Justin Fields. One, because he has more time accrued at a higher level of play, at the higher level of competition. Also, I think he's more developed as a passer, and he doesn't offer the same threat as a runner, but he offers you enough of a threat. Yep. So, and then character and leadership is not a concern with either guy. So I have to say Justin Fields.
Yeah, I'm going to say the same exact thing. I really, 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 I can't stress this enough. Like I've been saying, this year, North Dakota State not playing this year really hurt Trey Lance really bad, because if he could have gotten a little bit more film out there, proved that 28 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. I know he wouldn't have thrown 0 interceptions again, but low number of interceptions wasn't a fluke. I know, right? Yeah, you never know, but wasn't a fluke. Then I really think that would help him. But yeah, right now, like you said, he's not really developed as a passer. Fantastic runner. He has all the ability in the world, and he flashes talent, and he really shows what he can do. But Justin Fields, he's competed at a higher level. He's competed in big games. He's a leader. He's a better thrower of the football, and he's got enough mobility. Yeah. He's still a better athlete than most of the quarterbacks in the NFL. Yeah, I mean, he's just not as good as Trey Lance, and Trey Lance is up there with like Lamar. And so, so it's just different. But I would say that Trey Lance, if you're looking at him, probably has higher upside. Just in terms of what he could be, but that's just based off of if he goes to the right place, he sits for 2 years, and he could be fantastic. Will he be though? I don't think so. I think he also has a higher chance to bust. So I'm going to go with Justin Fields.
Yeah, the hammer, I'll tell you right now, as of right now, I think that Justin Fields has the leg up over Trey Lance, and I think it's by maybe 2, maybe 3. And the reason I say that is because one of the issues I had with Trey Lance's tape from last year was how much the coaching staff was having him run the football. And I know that's the base around their offense and everything, but when you get to the pros, you cannot abandon the pocket, and that can't be the first mindset that you have is getting upfield and running. One of the reasons why I love Kellen Mond's tape is the guy continues to keep his eyes downfield. Right. And that's what I worry about with Trey Lance. With Justin Fields, he is a passer. And when I saw that playoff game where he battled out that rib injury, we all saw it. That dude broke ribs. I don't care what anyone says. He broke some ribs, and he stayed out in there and did well.
He made some beautiful throws.
Yeah, and I gained a lot of respect for him. And granted, the offense makes everything easier for him, but I like the way he stands in the pocket and throws the football, can throw it deep, and has multiple reads. The only question is, with Justin Fields, he needs to have a good supporting cast around him. He needs to go to, a San Francisco, somewhere like that, where he can actually have a sustainable product around him, and he can actually do very well. If you send him to Houston, I think the guy's gonna have a problem. You know what I mean? And with
Houston, we have a problem.
And then with Trey Lance is not gonna be ready for a year or two, in my opinion.
And one like underrated point on the two is this, but we're familiar with this. Justin Fields, he knows how to run, but he knows how to slide, and that's one thing that concerns me about Trey Lance is he is a really good runner, but he drops his shoulder. He never
too much
slides, and he will get destroyed. He's a big guy, but he'll get killed in the NFL.
Yep.
And lots of guys who don't slide in college, it's the mentality. They don't know how to do it, so they just don't. So I think he'll be better protected too.
Trey Lance got a bunch of offers from D1 schools to play linebacker. That's actually where they wanted him to play, which is crazy. But no, you can't do that as a quarterback in the NFL.
No, not at all. But I will say the one thing about Trey Lance is his throwing on the run I thought was reminiscent of Aaron. And I don't want anyone to go out there and say, oh, you're comparing him to Aaron Rodgers. No, I'm just saying outside of the pocket on the run, his accuracy is out of this world. And that's the one issue with me is, can he stay in the pocket and throw the ball well? And that's what I saw that he was kind of struggling with. And one of the reasons why I did not like Jordan Love coming out. I thought Jordan Love was a terrible quarterback. I thought it was a horrible pick by the Packers. Hall, what about you? Trey Lance or Justin Fields?
Well, I'm going to go with Justin Fields just based off of resume, who he's played. He plays in the Big Ten opposed to, FBS, whatever
FCS,
it is.
The best team in the FCS.
Yeah.
Far and away. It's like
by a mile.
North Dakota State.
Right. The Bison. But I'm gonna go with Justin Field only because, like I said, resume, who he's played against, big games, character guy, great guy. And this might be maybe a hot take. I don't know. I don't know why people are not giving this comparison. But I think that Justin Fields can be a type of Josh Allen type of quarterback in the NFL where his rookie year, he's kind of inaccurate, but he can produce with his legs. You can kind of see, okay.
I was about to say, a little smaller, not as strong of an arm, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
accuracy.
I can see the tools. Like, okay. And then second year, kind of, okay, well, if he doesn't produce better third year, is he going to do something? Like, he showed flashes again, and then all of a sudden the third year just be like, everything clicks. I got the weapons around me. Bam. And that's what it is. So I could definitely see if Washington wants to move up and take him. I don't want to trade away multiple assets. I don't want to trade away the farm. Correct. But if he drops to outside of the top 10 and they got to go up to maybe 14 to 15 to maybe get Justin Fields, I'm all for that.
Yeah. So no, let's go on to our next question. Thank you, Freddie. That was a phenomenal
Yeah, thank
one.
you, Freddie.
Yeah.
Sean from Florida, his great question is, what's more likely? Do we trade away several picks for Watson, or trade up in the draft for Fields/Zach Wilson, or do we go with free agency with the quarterback position? I'll keep that with you, Hall, because you just brought it up.
Well, clearly, Ron Rivera and this front office has shown that they want to be in win now mode as they were trying to get Matt Stafford.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, they're trying to. I would say that Alex Smith is probably, if you want to go, plan H is
Mac Jones.
Mac Jones. I would go plan D is probably Alex Smith,
Mm.
Taylor Heineke, and whatever rookie they draft. But I would stay away from plan D as far as possible. I love Alex Smith, love what he's done for us, but we need to move on from Alex Smith. We need somebody that's going to be mobile, someone that's going to throw the ball down the field. And so I definitely think that that's a tough one. I would definitely see them trading up a couple spots to get a quarterback as opposed to like throwing everything in for Watson. Because I think that Rivera over his past, he's never really gone all in for like a free agent. He's never really thrown the bank, the farm at any type of free agent. So, I mean, look, I would love Watson. I hope they do that. I would be 100% for that. But realistically, I think that it'll be the latter, which is the second part.
What's more likely, Sean? I think what's more likely is Watson, because there is no telling how far Fields could actually drop. So maybe if, like Hall said, maybe if they're sniffing close at 15 or 16, they pull the trigger there. But I don't think that they're going to trade away a bunch of assets and capital to move up into the top 5 to be able to draft Fields. I think that's out of the realm of possibility, because if you're giving up all of those picks anyway, you might as well send them to Houston and get a established quarterback that has done well, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, with barely any weapons around him. I know everyone could talk about Will Fuller being great, Cooks is great. That's it. That's all they got. Their defense was absolutely horrible. I know David Johnson he had a bounce back year, but he was injured throughout the year. It's not like RG3 where he needed the surrounding cast to really make him better. With Deshaun Watson, he's already proved that he can ball without anybody around him. So in that case, that's who I give all those assets for. I think that you're playing with fire if you're trying to do that with Justin Fields. Is mortgaging the future with Justin Fields, because that's rearing the ugly head of the RG3 type of trade. So what about you, Todd? What's more likely in your opinion?
Man, that's tough. Like my first choice is also obviously Deshaun Watson. I don't expect him to get traded necessarily. I don't know. I keep going back and forth. Like right now, I don't see him getting traded, at least not like soon. And so because of that, I'll put him at third, and then a veteran in free agency, or with Matthew Stafford being on, the veteran list is small. It's either your boy Derek Carr or right, who they'll probably feel that really good about.
That's not my
so.
Kyle hates him.
I know.
Right.
I know.
What if you want Cam Newton over Derek Carr?
Todd, the only reason why I hate
you need
Derek
to log
Carr,
off.
The only reason I hate Derek Carr is because we have 2 friends that are Raiders fans, and for the longest time we would argue back and forth about Derek Carr, because he would always say Derek Carr was a lot better than Alex Smith and all this other shit, and we would argue back and forth. So it just kind of grew in my head that it was I hate Derek Carr.
Okay, I got you. It's less about him the person, it's more about your experience. Okay, that's fair. I'd be fine with Derek Carr to see how it goes. But I think all right, I'm just gonna say draft, whether it's via trade, a big jump, a small jump, or a jump back or something. I'm just gonna say trade, just because I guess in reality you've got about at least 4 more not solid, but 4 more options in the draft, and then outside of that, it almost feels like you don't have as many. So I'll say draft.
It's crazy, because I never would have expected, I was thinking this whole offseason that there's going to be so many quarterbacks, and if you strike out on Stafford, there's still going to be people available. But now that Stafford's gone, you really look at the
like there's nobody else
available. Now there's nobody else that would fit us like Stafford does. But I don't know. I don't know what really they're going to go. They're going to acquire a quarterback. There's no question about that. Ron Rivera said that their number one focus is to solidify the quarterback position. That's what they're going to do. I don't know how they're going to do that. I think that they want a veteran quarterback, somebody who's been around. But now that Stafford's gone, was he their plan A, and now they're just going to move on to plan B, which came out. People were saying that he really liked Justin Fields, or the staff liked Justin Fields. I don't know. I think now it's probably more likely that we end up drafting somebody, but you're going to have to trade up. I mean, there's not going to be anybody there at 19. And I don't know, man. I think that Ron Rivera really thinks that we could win now with a veteran, though. So it's really hard to say. I don't know.
And one underrated
aspect, I'm not going to answer the question. That's
one underrated aspect about the Alex Smith scenario is that his cap number is way too high. Look, I love Alex and his comeback story and what he did. But at this point, he is not worth that kind of that high of a cap number.
Way too high for a guy with a tricep muscle for a calf muscle.
Right. Yeah. He's got to do something there. So that's why I feel like Alex. I know everyone keeps saying that Alex Smith is talking about coming back this year, but you have to legitimately look at it from the Washington front office point of view and saying, look, we love the guy.
They're not paying him that.
There's no way that we can do that.
Only chance I see him coming back is if they release and re-sign him at a veteran minimum.
Correct.
They're not paying him $25 million. That's ridiculous.
No. Absolutely had to be a backup at the best.
Maybe Snyder might pay him that under the table just for all he's been through. But
right.
Got picks.
Yeah.
All right, so let me keep it with you, Todd. Mm-hmm. Charlie Caddy wants to know: would we feel comfortable with signing Cam Newton or Tyrod Taylor and drafting Kellen Mond or Jamie Newman in the 3rd round?
Comfortable. Okay, so I would say I'm not for signing Cam Newton, and I'm not sure it'll happen because it could have last year. But I think that Cam here, if you add a weapon like a Curtis Samuel or even someone better, and just overall, I think that he would be better than he was last year.
Correct.
I think if you won 7 games with 4 quarterbacks here last year, you could win at least 7 with Cam, probably.
Right.
But I don't think you'll be a Super Bowl contender.
Right.
So Cam and Tyrod with Mond and Newman, and then I have low expectations for mid-round quarterbacks to develop into franchise quarterbacks. Like, it's hope. It's not expectation for me.
Right.
So if that happened, I would say, okay, they're going to be a 7 to 10 win team this year, and then next year, who knows what'll happen. I wouldn't have any long-term expectations for success, and this year my expectations would be not much higher than what they achieved this past year. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I like Jamie Newman and Kellen Mond, but I just
sorry, go Reed.
I'm a big Mond guy now. After that Senior Bowl, I'm not too high on Jamie Newman anymore. Anytime you take a year off of football and come back and play like that, man, that's tough. I think before the season, he was the surefire. He could be looked at as a day 2 guy, possibly even jumped into day 1 if he played really well. But taking that year off, man, that really hurt him. And Kellen Mond did the exact opposite. Kellen Mond looked fantastic. He showed, like in college, everybody was talking about his low completion percentage. He was taking shots downfield and his receivers were dropping balls. At the Senior Bowl, people were catching them. So he looks fantastic. Yeah. I would love to take a flyer on him. I'd be okay with that, with the Tyrod. But let's go back to our plans. That would be like yeah, me too. And that would be like a plan F. or plan G, one of those two,
right above Mac.
right above Mac. That would be somewhere in there.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And the one thing I'll say about Kellen Mond, I'm not even going to talk about Jamie Newman, but with Kellen Mond, when I watched his tape, I absolutely loved it. And the one game that a lot of the critics will go to is the game against LSU. His completion percentage was terrible, but his wide receivers were not helping him out at all in that game. And the one thing I like about Kellen Mond is his accuracy, and it makes you go back and look at Dak. I think they're very similar in that kind of aspect. And the one reason why the Cowboys were able to do well with Dak is because they had built their team around it with a solid offensive line, great running game, and then some quality pass catchers. And with the Washington football team, they're actually starting to grow something a little bit on offense in that sort of capacity. So I would feel comfortable with Kellen Mond in the 3rd or 4th round.
Especially with him starting for a long time in college like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I've seen him being able to read coverages and knowing where the outlet is. I watched him thread a ball in against the cover 2 on a go route on the left side and being able to thread it in before the safety got over for it to be an easy catch before the hit came. That's the pro level type of throw that I'm looking for. So I would feel comfortable with Kellen Mond in that aspect. Now with the veteran signing there, we talked about it so many times. I thought that it would be a good fit for Cam to come here, but that was until Hall had educated me that Cam was asking for $20 million. So okay, then never mind. Because my whole thought process was if Cam is signing for less than 10, then heck yeah, let's get the tires kicking. Yeah. But if he's asking for more than that, I don't think it's doable at all.
Yeah, no. So my homework for maybe tonight or tomorrow will be to get a Mond next. I haven't watched. I watched all of Jamie Newman's games last week, and he really was unimpressive at the Senior Bowl. He could have helped himself a lot. At Wake Forest, one thing he was phenomenal at, he had a number of downfield completions that just made me my eyes be wide open, right?
He was fantastic when he was playing there. So he has the ability. He has all the ability.
Right. He has to just get
really
back
think
into
that year off really hurt him, hurt his stock.
Yeah. So I'm gonna take a look at Mond tonight or tomorrow and watch all his stuff, and because I want to get a feel for him. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
What
It's
about
a
you, Hall?
possibility.
I would probably go if I had to choose. I know I've been like killing Cam, and like I know he's a great leader, but my whole thing is, when have you seen Cam Newton actually like teach that next guy like, hey, this is the system, like this is what you got to do, blah blah blah. He's such an alpha. He's such an alpha. He was about to take his job. That's why Cam was so soft. he's that alpha male. He's like, I'm that guy. I can be that dude. So like, he's never gonna want to teach the next guy. Like kind of like Big Ben. Like, this is my spot. Like, learn your own type of thing. You know what I'm saying? So, in that aspect, I would probably go with Tyrod, and then you draft Kellen
Tyrod's
Mond.
done it a couple times too with Baker.
Yeah,
and Justin
Tyrod's a
Herbert.
great guy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's a great guy. You already know he's gonna be that kind of like, oh look, I know I'm that bridge guy.
Yeah.
I'll teach the next guy. I'll help you guys out.
And you
But
got
at
to feel
that
bad
point-
for his freak injuries too. To
Just
allow these
don't
rookies to come
puncture
in.
his lungs.
A punctured lung, and then what happened? It was that concussion that when he was with Cleveland randomly against the Jets when Baker came in.
Yeah. But at that point, it's kind of like, if we're gonna actually like consider Tyrod, you might as well just bring back Alex Smith to kind of teach Kellen Mond, because look,
I was about to rebuttal you.
I'm not gonna say that. I knew it was coming. I see it, but I'm not gonna say Kellen Mond's gonna turn out to be Pat Mahomes or even like Colin Kaepernick or something like that. Right. But if you're gonna have someone mentor a guy like Kellen Mond to be like sit for 15, 16 games and then be that guy next year, I would love it for it to be Alex Smith, because you know he's gonna be helpful out in the locker room. He's going to be helpful in the QB room. He's going to be helpful at practice. Right. He's going to say, hey, when I got off the field, this is what I saw. This is what you need to see. This is what you need to do in the huddle, blah, blah, blah. So,
that's a great point.
Yeah, I'd probably go Kellen Mond and then Alex Smith.
If he restructures his deal.
If he restructures, obviously restructures.
If he restructures for the veteran minimum.
Yeah, right. Alex Smith would really help Kellen Mond get a leg up on the competition, I think.
Look, I want Alex everywhere in the building, in the stadium, except for on the field.
Oh, yeah, right. I want him.
If he can start maybe like the first 7 to 8. Well, actually, if he starts no games, that'd be great. If he just teaches Kellen Mond and he becomes a day one starter, that'd be great. But
right. If he came in like Dak, you'd be like, all right.
I just don't think they're going to take – I think they're going to actually like get a vet, or they're going to move up and get one of these top 3 guys, whether it be Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, or
they're not getting Trevor Lawrence. We wish.
I mean, I say top 3. I exclude Trevor Lawrence.
Right.
I'm talking about Fields, Lance, or Lawrence or Wilson. Sorry.
Now, we just briefly talked about it with the Senior Bowl. Let's go to Tony Shiver's next question, which is, who from the Senior Bowl would be a great fit for Washington? I'll start with you, Todd.
Everyone hates Steven Sims Jr. now. Obviously, he had a down year, and this team does need a. Yeah, I'm not done with. Oh my God.
So
okay,
I've hated him more than anybody in the world. Okay, good.
This one's for you, Mike Reed. So I'm gonna go with. Everyone knows Kadarius Toney from Florida, right? Everyone saw that video, but I'm gonna go with Amari Rodgers from Clemson, and I'm saying that because he's gonna be drafted later. But I believe he can do pretty much everything that Kadarius Toney can do. They're similar in terms of size, weight, speed, all that, and quickness. And I think you get Amari Rodgers in like the 3rd, and Toney may be on in the 1st. So they need weapons on offense. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Amari Rodgers.
Yeah, and that's a phenomenal one. If I have to choose anybody out, why you got to do this to me? I don't even think he was in the Super Bowl. I watched his film. I really liked it. It was Elijah Moore, but I'm pretty sure he's a junior though. So that's who was going to point out to me the most. But I will say Richie Grant, the corner.
God damn it! You both took mine so far.
Really? Yeah, Richie Grant. He's a playmaker, dude. He's a baller. I would absolutely love to see him. Watching
Fantastic
him play.
Free safety.
Yeah, watching him play press coverage was phenomenal. I thought he was a very tough-minded, aggressive kind of guy, and so I would love to have that guy as one of our DBs. So, what about you, Hall?
I mean, you already know me. I love wide receivers. I love playmakers. So, Todd took mine. I was gonna go Amari Rodgers because he's a guy that stood out to me during the regular season in college football. Right. Going back to last year, he's a guy that kind of stood out, but he took a great leap this year. Senior Bowl, he kind of stood out again. I think he's gonna make big plays in the NFL. So, Amari Rodgers.
Yeah. Would you have anybody else, Reed?
Yeah, Western Michigan's Dwayne Eskridge. He's another guy who can go in there and fill. He could fill the slot. But I really, really like what Amari did. I love what Richie Grant did. I thought Richie Grant would be a perfect free safety in this defense. He really showed a lot of ball skills. But Eskridge is definitely somebody who rose up the boards. There's a lot of small school guys that really did well for themselves. I was happy for him. Like the center, I can't think of his name, but the center for Wisconsin Whitewater or whatever.
Yes,
Myers
whatever.
Miners. He's one who ended up breaking his hand and tried to argue with Coach Flores about going back into the game.
Yeah.
Flores was like, no, it's not worth it. You proved your point. But then Dylan Radin's also the offensive tackle for North Dakota State, who showed that he can play tackle and guard. And yeah, he did fantastic. So good for them. But also, Dwayne Eskridge, he's somebody who could come in there and really, really be a good slot receiver. He's very electric.
Yeah, and I will say about Dwayne Eskridge, I did his film breakdown the other day, and I was very impressed with him being able to high point the football. He's very good at being able to time it and then come down with the ball. And then his run blocking, I know a lot of wide receivers nowadays do well run blocking, but he seems to be very committed to doing it, and that's what I really like about him. He's a playmaker, and he gets used in motion a lot. And we've seen with Scott Turner and his offensive game plan that he loves to be able to do that, so I think that would be a great fit. And so that's fantastic, everyone. You guys had great ones, dude. Phenomenal. Now let's finish this up with Paul Murphy's. Who would we prefer a game manager this season, save draft capital, or do we go all out for Watson, Todd?
I don't want a game manager at all. I've been saying why wait to address it next year when you can address it this year, like possibly, right? Because next year is next year, this year is this year, and if you have it this year, you don't have to address it next year. So I'm fine with, I would go all in on a Deshaun Watson or whoever it may be. I don't see any advantage from getting a guy this year and building the team next year versus building the team this year and getting a guy next year. Except that we live in the now. We know what's happening this year. We have no idea what's going to happen next year. They may win the Super Bowl next year, but not have a quarterback and have the 32nd pick. That's not going to happen, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Reed?
I think you got to go all in. I think, like I talked about before, like we ended up kicking this runs window wide open. I mean, like we have a lot of talent on this team. Rivera's building it the right way, but I also think that this window is closing a lot faster than people think with all the contracts that we're going to have coming up here soon. So I think go all in now. If you can, go out there, get Deshaun Watson, somebody who at least once you got to let some of these other guys go, you're just going to have stability at the quarterback position for a long time. A game manager, I just don't feel like watching that right now. Give me some exciting football.
Yeah, I know. And the one thing I saw with Benjamin Albright, I know that he's gotten a lot of predictions correct with the Washington football team regarding to their quarterbacks and who they select. And he had them put out with Andy Dalton. And look, I respect Benjamin Albright, but hell to the no. No, hell no. I do not want to even get close to the redheaded guy. I want to stay the hell away from that.
It's very rare that one person's opinion makes you lose all respect for him. But
yeah, see, at that point, I'm of the type where I would rather draft like Kellen Mond and just start him week one. And I'd rather go with the unknown than the known at that point.
Right. And in my opinion, dude, it's go big or go home. When I saw that Matt Stafford news come through, I said, go after Watson. And I know that everyone keeps saying, well, like, why would he come here? Why would Watson come here? And do we have enough to be able to trade? At the end of the day, Houston is in the driver's seat at the very beginning. But Watson is the one that's able to send it off. And in his agent being David Mulgeta, who was Dwayne Haskins' agent, so the Washington football team are very familiar with David Mulgeta. And what I would like them to do is kind of be talking to David and instead of Houston and saying, hey, do you kind of have a feel for what they would want? And that way being able to talk to Watson, seeing if he's okay to come here, and then going to Houston with their trade proposal. That's what I would like them to do, because I don't think it's going to cost as much as everyone thinks it will. And I know that some people are saying, I saw one thing that said you should include Chase Young in that deal, which is absolutely ridiculous. They were saying 2 firsts and Chase Young.
They said 3 firsts.
They said
3 firsts.
3 firsts and Chase.
If Chase Young is even discussed, there should be no draft capital even associated with it. I'll tell you that right now. Chase Young by himself is worth Deshaun Watson. I don't care what anyone says. So take that out the window and take that out back and shoot it. I don't care. I want to go all out for Watson. I think 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and then Daron Payne would get it done. I think you can kind of negotiate them away from the 2 defensive players, because who would be the other defensive player? You don't want to give them 2 defensive tackles or Daron Payne and Montez Sweat.
I would imagine Landon College, who they wouldn't want to take, or maybe even like Cole Holcomb or somebody who's on
it would 100% be Montez Sweat, because they've had J.J. Watt there for X amount of years. They're going to want to replace that edge rusher to be like that staple to go with their franchise quarterback. So it would 100% be Montez Sweat and another player.
I hope not.
Look, I know that sucks to say and everything, but I would rather it be Daron Payne. And if it comes down to it, and I don't want them having to give away 6 assets in order to get Watson, I think you can kind of bring that down to 5, and then you can negotiate that down because Houston is not in the driver's seat as much as everyone keeps saying they are. It's all up to Watson. Watson is the one that holds the key there, in my personal opinion. Now, let's move on to Mike's question, which is, should we trade back for more picks, Hall, in the first round?
Man, depends how far you want to trade back, because I'm from the philosophy of you get a top 10 pick, you're going to get guaranteed 9 out of 10. You're going to get a guaranteed bona fide stud. When you go from that top 10 to the back half of the draft, it's kind of hit or miss. Character guys, do they fit the scheme? It's blase. So
Blase. You haven't said that in a while.
Yeah, I know.
That's what's going to be on your shirt.
Blase. I already put on his Holstradamus.
Kyle should say absolutely.
If anything, I would want to trade up. I wouldn't want to trade back to get more picks, just because a second and you call another second and another third round pick. It's kind of like you can use that for more ammo to trade back into the first round later. But on top of that, it's kind of like, what are they really going to do for you? I'd rather trade up and get rid of some trade capital and get like a bona fide stud, day one starter, is going to be contributor, as opposed to trading back and kind of the unknown.
Yeah, look, I will say right now, if they don't trade for Watson, if they don't make a play for a quarterback in the league and they have 19, I wouldn't mind them trading back at 19 because, it's kind of a no man's land where you're there, because you're kind of where Zaven Collins is, Nick Bolton, Kadarius Toney most likely is going to be there. You're going to have some options, but it's almost like in one of those situations where you don't want to overdraft in that kind of scenario. And so I would rather see them trade back, and then that way have some more middle round guys to be able to use on, like you said, Dwayne Eskridge or one of these wide receivers and playmakers to kind of help your team out, especially on the offensive line as well. What about you, Todd?
Yeah, I think an ideal scenario would be, let's say, in a magical world, like Derek Carr gets like cut or something, or you give up not a lot to get him, and you still have your first, and you're looking wide receiver maybe where the value is just so deep you could trade back and still get a really good guy.
Yeah.
Sure, something like that. But if you don't manage to address quarterback before the draft, then
there's no that's what it is. You have to address quarterback before the draft, or you got to take somebody in the draft. Like there's no waiting around. There's no beating around the bush. Like you got to it's now or never. So exactly. I'm in the same place. I mean, it really all depends. It depends on what prospects are there. Really, let's say we get quarterback figured out with whoever it is they say they're going to go with. We're going with them. It really depends on who's there. Like if there's no receivers that are worth taking right there at 19, and they may still be available at the end of round 1, and same with linebackers, and it's just like just gain some assets, trade back. Yeah. But I think that they may end up having to trade up, to be completely honest with you, for a quarterback.
I really hope not. I think that's the worst case scenario.
I think you're the worst case scenario. So how about that?
I know. I love you. Now, Mike's last question, I think, is a really good one. Before we finish off with Burrows, and then we're going to get out of here. Does it matter if your team, like if your quarterback is good enough, if your quarterback is great, or is it if you have an average QB, can he win a Super Bowl if he's surrounded by studs? And I'll start with you, Todd.
That's a good question.
That's a great question. I love this question. I have this conversation with myself so much. You can win a Super Bowl, but you won't be a team that consistently wins or is in contention. Yeah. Look at the teams that have been for the last, let's say, about 10 years. Look at the Russell Wilson. Look at Aaron Rodgers. Look at the Packers. Look at the Chiefs with
Patriots.
Right? Look at the Patriots. Look at the Colts with Peyton Manning. Look at the Steelers. It's very rare you find a true franchise quarterback with a team that's not consistently in contention, but it's very often you find a team without a franchise quarterback that's not in contention. So you could win a Super Bowl, like Jared Goff could take you, Jimmy Garoppolo could take you, Trent Dilfer could take you, but they didn't go back with that same guy. And two of them didn't win. So
100. I don't even have to talk because that's exactly what I was about to say. Like, you need a franchise guy to be a consistently good team in this league. And look at the Lions. Look at the Lions with Matt Stafford. They had a very good quarterback who's severely underrated, criminally underrated. Yeah, they didn't win shit because. I mean, he's not the top of the line guy. He's not.
Look at Houston. Even with Deshaun Watson throwing for the stats that he had, they only won 4 games. And it's because of the people around him, the team and the staff around him. And in those scenarios for the Super Bowl, if your quarterback doesn't get you to that level, you have to have a literally above average team, like one of the best all-time teams.
Yeah, you do.
Right.
The Ravens, look at the Ravens with Joe Flacco when they won. Look at the Broncos with Peyton Manning when they won, where he barely won them that game, and he didn't even play well in that game. It was because how good that defense was. So you have to build up your team in one or two areas. That is surrounding that quarterback position, and then with that mediocre play, or have a good quarterback and kind of balance it out with the rest of the team, which is what Kansas City is doing. Kansas City, the way that they have built their roster and their coaching staff, they are stacked top to bottom. Because the way that they were able to go get Tyrann Mathieu, then Brashad Breeland on the outside, he's playing like a top 10 corner right now. I don't care what anyone says. That dude is strap city right now. They have really built a good team without kneecapping themselves with the contract of Pat Mahomes. So that's the kind of recipe that you want to go with and kind of keep them on a low kind of deal, but they're hitting fire right now. So in my opinion, you got to get a good quarterback and then kind of balance it out with the rest of the team. And I think the Washington football team is kind of in that realm right now.
Unless you get that elite guy, like you said, and then you're in contention
then you're good.
every year. Yeah.
What, can I add one more thing to that? The quarterback is one position. And we all agree that like a really good quarterback can help make up for deficiencies in other areas. Like you have to have a good team, but if you have a good team with a great quarterback, you can be better than what you are.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Quarterback is one position.
It's the most important position in sports.
21. So it's easier to try to get an elite guy or a really good guy at one position than to get 21 good guys or good enough guys. So, I mean, that's just my logic on it. We're talking about 1 versus 21 guys that you can easily find in later rounds versus quarterback where it's just, that's surprising.
I know they had a kind of a down year last year, but like, look at Dak Prescott. I mean, the dude's been covering up the holes.
Was leading the league for like 6 weeks after he got hurt.
He's been covering up all the deficiencies for the Cowboys, the defensive side for the past like year and a half. So, I mean, like Reed said, it's the most important position in football and in sports. In sports, but in football, definitely. So you need that football, not even like a elite guy. You just need like a top 12 guy to kind of keep you in games, kind of literally
gives you a chance every game.
Always going to give you a chance.
Right. No matter what.
Even if he screws up, he still gives you a chance.
Like there have been some pretty bad teams in Green Bay that won because Aaron Rodgers is just that goddamn good. Yeah. Same with up and
look at Andrew Luck and the Colts.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Literally,
they
turned him around in one season just because he was that good.
Yeah.
So if you get that top of the line guy, you're good.
Finish your thought, Hall. You keep going.
No, that was my only.
That was it. Okay.
I can tell when he ends.
Phenomenal question by Mike. He always has great ones for us. Now to end this episode out, let's with Burrows. Oi, from the UK. Are you worried that the team might get carried away with too much viewing of the quarterback position, and that they will be taking their eye off somewhere else on the team that needs to be addressed? And I'll start with you, Todd.
So I'm going to say, no, I'm not worried. I'm going to say that I don't care about any other position until they figure out quarterback. So probably I would, but I don't think they will. I think they know, where they really need to improve, which, half of it ties in directly with quarterback, which is weapons. So I think that they'll clearly have an eye on what they need to address most importantly, which is quarterback, but they'll also still have the other eye looking at offensive weapons and linebackers and maybe corners. So I'm not worried about that. No, I think that they'll be equally focused on both.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think their number one need right now, if Ron Rivera, if we could see his chalkboard up in his office, I think quarterback is number one, and then middle linebacker is number two. I don't think that they're shying away from that. I think they all know that the linebacker position needs to be addressed, in my personal opinion. What about you, Hall?
Yeah, I'm going to go. They have literally, I see it as they have two options. They're going to go with quarterback X and surround them with weapons, and they're going to go in win now mode and push all the chips in. Or they're going to go with weapons in free agency and Alex Smith and the rest of the casting crew of Taylor Heineke, and whoever else it is.
You just call him Tyler again?
We always call him.
I still can't get his name right. I'm still not sold on him. That's how I feel. Yeah. 5 quarters of football. His name's Tyler, so he proves me otherwise.
Exactly. Yeah. He doesn't get that A in his name. Ain't no A game.
Man, wow, that's rough.
Damn, that was kind of tough. That was kind of earn that A. Earn that A, Tyler, motherfucker.
But seriously, I think they go literally ex-quarterback, surround him with weapons or a couple weapons or multiple weapons, Alex Smith, and go from there.
What about you, Reed?
Yeah, I don't think that. I think Ron Rivera, they're too smart. They know what they're doing. They're not going to neglect other positions just because everybody wants a quarterback. Fans, though, yeah, fans will. We'll only think about quarterbacks and maybe a receiver. But Rivera and them, they know the roster. They know their strengths and weaknesses. They know what we need to do to improve on. Look at what they did last offseason. Look at the guys that they signed. A lot of fans were pissed off during the offseason. They're like, we haven't signed anybody good. I was
one of them.
It worked out pretty goddamn well.
They earned another year of trust for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%.
They got my trust. Or at least
they can do whatever they want in free agency right now. They're hitting 100.
Disrespecting my boy Logan Thomas. I heard that all summer long. They ain't got no weapons. Like, dude, Logan Thomas is gonna ball out.
Yeah.
For your Logan Thomas, I'll trade you Antonio Gibson. So we're even.
That's true.
There you go.
All right, thank you to everyone for your fan questions. Freddie, Burrows, the Colonel, Paul, Mike, Tony, and then Sean and Charlie. Thank you guys so much. And then special thanks to you, Todd. I'm glad that we're finally able to come on here and talk some ball because, you're probably one of the better film evaluators out of the Washington football fan base. Yeah. Your YouTube channel is phenomenal. The way that you break down the film of Washington games and the rookies is great stuff. Not that many people have that kind of luxury at this moment. So if you haven't already, go follow Todd on Twitter at Tae Todds Podcast or on YouTube and on Apple Podcasts. You guys are phenomenal, one of the best in the game, and it was a pleasure as always, brother.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you saying all that. I'm just, I'm trying to be like you, Kyle. So thanks. And just
Godfather.
Yeah, I saw that. I really appreciate that. It was really cool to come on here with you guys, and just you guys are one of my favorite. I feel like if I say my favorite, other people will get mad.
Then
you guys are like my favorite, right?
Show.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
But I love listening.
That's how it is with me.
Yeah, and I like. You guys have good chemistry, which is huge for podcasts.
Well, me and Kyle used to date. Yeah.
So that's all right. So that has something to do with it. Yeah, you guys have great chemistry, and so. And you guys also have great guests lots of the time. I'm not talking about myself, but so I'm flattered and I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thanks.
And of course, I really do appreciate Tae. We've had who's a former guest of our show as well. I love your guys' show, the banter you guys have. You talk about chemistry. You guys are one and the same. Really do appreciate you taking the time, Todd. I'm really glad that we were able to do this.
Me too.
All right, everybody, please go and like and subscribe us on all platforms, Apple, YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, Google Pods. We are everywhere. All right, everybody, I'm Kyle.
Paul.
And this on old chunk of coal is Mike Reed.
This little chunk of coal. That one was terrible. All right, everybody, we'll see you.
That wasn't Joe. That's literally just.
All right, we'll see you guys on Thursday. Washington football. Whee! What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.